goodies? It's your girl, DJ Cha Cha Diva of the Feel Good Friday show. I'm here with our special guest. I'm so excited. We have published author Yasmina in the house. Yasmina, say what's up to everybody.
Hi everyone.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so happy that you took the time out to come on and talk to everyone today. Tell everyone about your latest book, your latest project.
Yes, my latest book is called Switch, and this is just based off my life and encouraging people basically what not to do and how I overcame it. I've been through so much that from rape to homelessness to selling drugs to raising four kids. It's been a lot. So I
Yes.
just wanted to really write this book because I see a lot of young women kind of walking in the same footsteps as me. And I'm like, if I can help, let me help. So when I got the urge to write this book, I was kind of skeptical. I was like, I don't know if I want to tell my business, but just God said do it. Go ahead and do it because people need to know.
Amen. Absolutely. So you did mention that you are a survivor of many things. Can you tell everyone what surprised you the most when writing this book about yourself? What did you learn about yourself, if anything, after everything that you've been through in life?
How forgiving I am. I am very, very forgiving. One story I wrote, it was my son's father, and he was actually one of the ones that raped me. And I was forgiven. He wound up getting shot, and I wound up helping him, taking care of him, taking him to doctor's appointments. I would cook, I would clean for him. And in my mind, it was like, girl, you crazy. Why are you doing this? But I always had compassion for people. And I always was like forgiving. I always was a person who forgive fast. So I think reading this book, I was like, you should have did something else. That's the the human side of me saying you probably should have hurt him. You see stories of people hurting people who hurt them, but not me. I just move forward in love.
Yes. And you talk about forgiveness, especially as African American women. I'm sure that our viewers can relate to that. Do you think that, as Black women, we probably are a little more forgiving at times than we should be when it relates to situations like domestic abuse and just not getting the respect that we should get from society as a whole?
Absolutely, I do. Just reading my story and seeing a lot of women that I've been around because I've been to counseling and everything. I think that we forgive too fast. Instead of healing first and then going forward and forgiving, I think that you're vulnerable. Women are very vulnerable and they just take the bait too fast. I think that they don't give themselves time. And in all actuality, I don't think it's true forgiveness. I think that they just want somebody. Most women, they go back to the abuser. They want somebody to be in that space.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I know that what I've seen, not just with myself, but with a lot of women that have experienced any type of domestic abuse, there's usually some type of pathology or pattern in the family dynamic as a whole. Can you
Yes.
speak a little bit to that and how that might resonate with your personal story?
Absolutely. I know my mother was abused, and seeing her abused, I thought that that was love. I thought that it was
Yeah.
okay. So being in my own situation, I just thought that that what love was. This is what it is. This is what I was raised to see throughout my whole life. So it has to be right. When I found out it wasn't right, I had to go back and do a whole lot of soul searching because I'm
Yeah.
like, this is not really love. It's not supposed to feel like this. Why is this hurting so bad?
And can you think of a particular point in your life where you just knew that you had to make a change in order to get out of that situation? We so often speak, especially as Black people, about prayer and a higher power, which I totally, totally think we need to get through some of the hardest situations in life. But at the same time, we do know that as we ask God for help, there are certain things and changes that we need to make in our lives in order for miracles to move. Do you remember a pinnacle point in your life when you just knew that something had to change?
Yes, I was pregnant with my daughter. My daughter's 10 years old, and It was time for my oldest son to come back from New Jersey to North Carolina, and big as I was fighting. It was a day before I was supposed to go have her, and I was fighting so hard. And then my son's called and said that he wanted to come home, and I'm like, I can't bring my son back into this household. I can't see him out of his eyes looking at mommy like, why are you still going through this? Why are you still getting beat up in front of us? So I made up in my mind that day that I didn't want to fight no more. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to bring my son into the household where he felt like he had to defend me. I didn't want nobody. I didn't want my kids to have to defend me. And then bringing a little girl. This was my first girl. I didn't want her to think that that was right. I didn't want her to think that it was okay for a man to abuse her. So at that point, I said, nope, that's it. I was done with it.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of women that are listening can relate to that, whether they've been through it themselves. Everybody knows someone affected and impacted by domestic abuse. It's more common than we would like it to be, but it is a real issue. And I just, in reading your book, I was blown away about your openness to discuss it, because these scenarios and these conversations within the Black community are typically very much taboo. People don't want to talk about what's going on.
Yes,
We come from a generation of what happens in your home stays in your home, and you
that's
better
right.
not talk about it
You better
with
not say
nobody
nothing.
else, right?
And see, that's
Absolutely.
how I was. I didn't talk about it. I think it's when I really got deep into church and start, getting to know God for myself. Because
Yeah.
before I thought, oh, if I let it go, God gonna take his hand off of me. This is my marriage. I don't want to be from under God's covering. But I had to learn God for myself. And that's when I found out, no, I wanted to feel that agape love that God talks about. I want to know a different side of God, and stepping out the marriage, getting my divorces when I found out that this is not right.
You bring up a very good point about marriage. I know that so many people, and I can personally say I was a person that was raised to feel that if you marry, you married forever. You're not to leave the marriage. Would you say that that was one of the biggest things that kept you from maybe leaving the situation earlier than you would have normally?
Oh yes. Oh yeah. I wanted my first marriage to be my last marriage. I just was looking at the old people. I supposed to be spending 40 to 50 years with this
Mhm.
person. And it's so many things that the church tell you. It makes you feel bad. So I wound up going to a church, and the pastor said divorce means death. That means the love is gone. So technically, you being in it, and it's not right. It's not pleasing in God's eyes. And I was like, okay, so what do I do? Either way, I felt like I was wrong. So when
Yeah.
I decided, God made me feel a comfort in it. You have to feel, because if you're not comfortable in it, you're not going to move. You're going to stay stuck. You're going to stay bound. So when he told me that, I prayed about it and I said, okay, this is it. I went and got a divorce. Nobody knew. I did it on my own. I wrote the judge, everything. I wanted a divorce. And I left with nothing. And a lot of people are scared to start all over. I left with pallets. Me and my kids slept on pallets of sheets. I let him have everything. I don't want anything. You can have it. So I started
Yeah, I
over.
mean, you hit on something really important. So sometimes rock bottom is where the peace is, right? That
Yes.
is paradise. Having nothing and having to start and rebuild from scratch can sometimes feel so much better than living in the big, beautiful home with the cars and the clothes and that
Right.
facade, right? That we like to
Yes.
put out to the public.
Right, because on the outside everything looked good, but on the inside I felt like I was dying. I remember being about to commit suicide because I was done getting beat on. What I could say, a couple of days before my marriage, I mean my wedding, he beat me bad. Like I was sore walking down the aisle,
Mm.
but I still put on a happy face. And I'm like, well, it's paid for. I'm going to do it anyway. And, I wish that I was mature enough back then to say, no, you don't need to do that. Forget the money, forget everything. You need to take care of yourself.
Yeah, talk to us a little bit more about the history. and how you started to see the breakdown in the other person, how that person changed. What's the history of the relationship, and at what point did you realize something was terribly wrong?
Um, Man, my mom actually, I was living with my mom, and she actually, put me out her house, and I was like, okay. So he moved me in, and I think maybe like a month after he started. I mean, I found
Mm.
out I was pregnant. He threw a dresser on me because I didn't want to get an abortion. It just got worse and worse. And then it was like with him, I would say his past, his trauma from his history is what made him do it. And, I don't want to blame it on, you can't keep on blaming because everybody has to take accountability. But his past really traumatized him, which I took the hits from everybody. It was
Yeah.
like I was that person. Things would resurface, and he would have flashbacks, and I would get beat for it. So it wasn't. It was maybe like 2 months into me moving in with him. It started, and I mean,
Yeah.
it was bad. It just kept on happening and happening. And I'm like, but I felt like I owed him because he moved me into his house. He helped me out. So now I feel like I owe this man my loyalty. I have to stay because he did this for me, and that's not a way to think either.
And it's a lot more common than you think. In talking to people that have been survivors of domestic abuse, the stories are so similar in which normally the abuser has the person set up in a situation to where they feel like they're obligated to them, right? They owe
Yes,
them, and may even start feeling sorry for the abuser, right? And
I did.
empathizing with them and justifying the behavior based on that. um I love that you said that, and digging in a bit more, right, on the book. Can you tell me, or tell us rather, what the title means? So switch, making that switch. What is the title about?
So switch is just the new you, walking into the new you, not being that person you was back then that tolerates everything that's dished out. You don't have to tolerate it. So when I made my switch came because I was like, I've been single for 6 years, and I really want to be able to give somebody the healed part of me. So what do I need to do to create this new person to get to that person, to get to my, what do they call, soulmate, my one. So that's when everything just start coming up. When I say things was from my past was coming up that I had to deal with all over again, I'm like, hold up, maybe I don't want to do this no more. Maybe I don't want to make this switch. But in the midst of the switch of me becoming this grown woman Yasmina from the little girl Yasmina, I had to
Yeah,
let her go. So that's the whole switch. Being the woman that I want to be today, the healed Yasmina that I want to be.
absolutely. And I'm so
Change.
glad you said that about change and growth and making that switch. It's important that people go through that hard and grueling process in order to enter into another relationship. There's a lot of broken and damaged people walking around here, you know,
Yeah.
trying to get booed up. So, can you speak to the importance of making sure that you have actually gone through that full healing, and tell us a little bit more about how you got to your healing?
I think healing is an everyday process. If you're not willing to let go of your past, if you're not willing to forgive your past, no matter how bad it hurt, if there's no forgiveness, if there's no moving on, there's no way that you could be in a relationship with somebody else because that past is going to keep on coming back. That's what I learned. It keeps on
Yeah.
coming back because it's a smell that would trigger you. It's a word that can trigger you. An action that can trigger you. That somebody could be playing with me and I'm ducking. I'm going, because I'm scared. So that part is like, okay, now you have to change. You have to make this change. Don't hold on to what somebody else did because the next person won't do you the same way. And then also, I feel like you have to let go of the narrative that, everybody hurt somebody. Like, everybody's going to treat you that way because that was embedded in me. Like, oh, everybody cheats. Every man cheats. That's not true. Some people was actually raised right. Right. So
Right.
I just believe that. So every man is not the same. Every woman is not the same. And once you get that into your head, you can move forward in love instead of thinking in the back of your head, oh, well, they gonna do this. So you always have your guard up. You have to put that guard down.
So, what is that healing look like? How did you acquire those tools? Did you go through therapy? Did you rely on, the support of family and friends and your faith? How did you get through that rough patch in your life?
Well, I'm a secretive person. I don't like nobody in my business. Honestly, so it was just leaning on me and God. And I have a
Yeah.
couple of friends that I would go to and I would cry it out, and 2 seconds later I'm like, right, let's go. But I really solely rely on me and God because I was too embarrassed to tell everybody what I was going through. Too embarrassed to let them know, like, I was really getting beat on. I was really
Yeah.
going to school with black eyes, sprained hands. Like, I was too embarrassed. So I wish I would have had somebody there. Well, I wish I would have stepped out and told somebody because it would have been better for me. But because I went for it by myself, through it by myself, I feel like I had it rough. I really had it rough
Yeah.
because I didn't have nobody to lean on when I was really hurting, or when I was feeling suicidal, when I just felt like I don't want to be here no more because of what I was going through. It was so painful when I could have just opened my mouth and say, "Listen, mom, this is what I'm going through. I just need a hug." There, don't go through it by yourself.
Yeah.
Go to somebody. Even if it's somebody that you don't know, go to somebody to get the help that you need.
Yeah. The shame in abuse is real. It really is. And it doesn't have to be, but sometimes it's so difficult just starting that conversation or just knowing who you can trust, right? And it's a crazy thing, even being outside of the presence of the abuser, there's always that fear. They're going to find out, right? Or somehow they're going to know that I spoke to somebody about this, and that's going to be bad for me. So you were speaking about that shame, and that shame is really, really a serious thing. What would you say to the young lady that's watching us speak here today that might be going through something similar at home and just feels like they're too embarrassed to speak on it? What is the value, and how would that have changed your life had you spoken up, maybe to your mom, as you stated, or told a friend what was really going on behind closed doors?
I would say don't be embarrassed because embarrassment almost killed me because I was so embarrassed. So if you can just find one person to go talk to
Yeah.
that one person that you trust. You don't have to be embarrassed because everybody goes through something. Sad to say, like, this is life is gonna life. So don't be embarrassed. Just push through and go talk to somebody. I mean, don't let shame kill you. And it not only it kills your soul. It took so much for me to bring me back. At one time I didn't even know what made me happy, what made me laugh, what
Yeah.
made what food I liked, because I was so embedded in somebody else. I was so embedded in the hurt that I was feeling that I didn't know what made me tick. So don't feel embarrassed. Go to somebody, get the help that you need. Don't let it kill you off. Don't let it kill your spirit.
No, that's great advice. And you make a good point about not genuinely knowing who you are coming out of something like that. So for those people that like to hop from relationship to relationship after coming out of a situation like that, you're giving them proof that that's not the best way to do it, because you're basically building yourself back up again and learning who you are again, getting your identity back and your self-worth. So important.
It is. I be watching. I'm like, some people. I'm like, well, dang, they just had a boyfriend last week. What am I doing wrong? But I realize it's just soul attachments. So you just adding trauma on top of trauma. You're not getting time to say, okay, well, let me release these feelings. You're actually
Mhm.
taking on somebody else's. So you taking on this person, leaving them, and then adding another person. That's not healthy. So you got to learn how to divorce them soul ties before you can actually move on into a new relationship. I said that a lot. I say that to a lot of people. Divorce the soul ties you already have. Because what we don't realize is, like, we're being married to everybody that we bring in our lives. And
Mhm.
that's a strong soul tie to release. It's strong.
Very much so. So, speaking of soul ties, after doing the necessary work that you needed to do on yourself to be ready to love again and to date again, tell our viewers the beautiful happy ever after that happened in your life once you had the courage to go ahead and make that switch, make that change.
Man, I'm able to smile, a genuine smile. This is like, I have felt the best in the last couple of years that I've ever had in my life. That's my words. It just feel good. It feel good to be me. It feel good to experience the healed part of me. So I'm always
Yes.
smiling. I'm able to take on situations, and I'm like not feel down about it, but actually be like, okay, I can handle this. You feel mature. You feel like, dang, I'm grown. I can handle this now. I don't have to handle something with crying.
Yes, Yasmina Wactor, we're going to be looking for you. I want to ask you one more question. Where do you see yourself in the next 10 years out, beyond this journey?
Man, hopefully I'm gonna be married in like another year. I'm
Say it
looking
out
for that
loud.
right now. Listen, no, I actually want to write a couple more books. I have a children's book that I want to write. That should be out maybe in the next couple of months because I like to keep on going. I do want to open. I like to help the homeless, so I'm working on that. Just hitting things that I want to do. I really have a passion for women that's been homeless like me, single mothers that struggling like how I struggle and still coming out. So I'm still coming out. Yeah, just helping the women and men because I have a brother who's a single father, so that changed my outlook on stuff. So I'm looking to help everybody. Whatever God leads me to is what I want to do, and this I have a passion to help people.
Absolutely. Well, girl, stand in your blessings, stand in your gift, and thank you for sharing your gifts with us. So, yes, people, get out there, get that book. It's called Switch by Yasmina Wactor. We're going to provide you guys, yes, with all the links so that you can purchase. And Yasmina, thank you so much again for gracing us with your presence here today on the Feel Good Friday show. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a big thing for me because I'm a shy person for real, so it's really big for me. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.